Alright guys, welcome back to part 3. Next up we have Cxyz Simon, the Great Moral Leader. He is a rank 7, but he requires 3 of them. His effect is this card is unaffected by other monster effects. If this card has Naruto, the Moral Leader, as an Xyz material, it gains this effect. Once per turn during either player's turn, you can detach one material from this card, then target one monster your opponent controls, change its battle position, and if you do, negate its effects until the end of this turn. That's a pretty darn good effect, but it does require 3 level 7 monsters, and realistically making Big Eye and Draco Sack is probably more optimal. However, this card, is not bad since it still has the effect of this card is unaffected by other monsters' effects. Plus, it has that alternate effect if you use Naruto, but realistically, I don't know. I think it is a card that some people might tech into any deck that makes rank 7s, mostly E-Dragons. Next up, we have Comics Hero King Arthur. So his effect is, if this card would be destroyed by battle, you can detach one material from this card instead. When you do, it gains 500 attack, and if it does, inflict 500 damage to your opponent. So very small damage. Maybe your opponent has to attack over you, and then you can burn them simply for the last amount of damage. Now I still think, since it does require warrior type monsters, something like Blade Armor Ninja, it can deal way more damage, just really fast. But there's a card called Heroic Champion Excalibur, which I love way more, simply because it has 4,000 attack, and your opponent is pretty much not going to destroy it by battle the next turn, simply because it's going to have that 4,000 attack until your next turn. So I think that Excalibur is pretty much a much better one. But hey, there are certain circumstances where Comics Hero King Arthur will be better. Next up, we have Cxyz Comics Hero Legend Arthur. So he is one of those where you pretty much are going to be using the rank up card, but if you want to make him regularly, you can use 3 level 5 monsters. When once per turn, this card cannot be destroyed by battle if this card has the Arthur attached to it. When this card destroys a monster by battle and send it to the graveyard, you can attach one material from this card, banish the destroyed monster, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to its original attack. Now that's not bad at all, but if you have 3 level 5 monsters, what you can do, instead of destroying it by battle and sending it to the graveyard, you can just go for number 61 and then just burn your opponent like that, then go for Gaia Thunder Charger, and you're going to be in a much better situation, and you only had to use 2 monsters. That's just my thoughts on it though. Next up, we have Battlecruiser Diantheus. But it's a plant. I got so excited. I was like, more plants. But there's a whole bunch of these burn cards that are XYZs. But anyways, this one requires 3 level 3 monsters. You can attach one material from this card and inflict 200 damage to your opponent for each card in their hand. You can only use the effect of Battlecruiser Diantheus once per turn. So it's got decent attack too. It's got 21, so I mean you can burn them, and then you can technically attack, and maybe this card will be there for games. Kind of like that Gaga Cowboy always comes out, and it always makes you salty when you lose to it. Next up, we have the Cxyz Battleship Cherry Blossom. Now this is a monster that requires 4 level 4 monsters, and once per turn during your opponent's end phase, if your opponent has more cards in their hand than you do, you can they discard 1 card. If this card has Battlecruiser Diantheus as an Xyz material, it gains the effect that you can detach 1 material from this card and inflict 300 damage to your opponent for each card on the field. You can only use the effect of Cxyz Battleship Cherry Blossom once per turn. So maybe you can activate the effect of the Battlecruiser Diantheus, and then you detach 1, they take 200, then you detach another one, then inflict 300. So maybe you can technically burn for a lot of damage. I mean, maybe some certain decks can utilize this, and maybe a burn might be a popular deck, or it might actually be viable, depending on how fast they can make maybe more support. There's not enough support right now, I think, to make this deck viable, because Chain Burn is probably the most viable burn deck, and I don't know if you have that much room for all these, monsters to rank up with. But maybe in the future they will make some more support. Another spaceship. This one is Sky Palace Gengareda? I read all the effects, I didn't read all the names, but anyways. So this one requires 2 level 10 monsters, and you can detach 1 material from this card, then target 1 card your opponent controls, destroy that target. If you do, inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent. You can only use the effect of Sky Palace Gengareda. We'll call him Gengareda. Once per turn, this card cannot attack. The turn you activate this effect. So I really think Gustav Max is much better, because Gustav Max can't technically attack. Gustav Max also inflicts 2,000 points of damage. However, if there is a card you need to get rid of, you can definitely fit this in. I mean, if you're playing something that can make use of Gustav Max, that's really fast. I made a deck that can really utilize Gustav Max, It involves using agents. It's a pretty weird variant. I'll put that down below in the description box if you are interested in checking this out, because this could be a viable build. There was lots of room in that extra deck, so you can definitely play this plus Gustav Max. I don't know. I kind of like Gustav Max better. This is a more safe option, but this one technically doesn't deal as much damage. It does technically have more attack, but 3,000 is pretty hefty anyways. There's very few things that are going to get over 3,000 attack in the game. Majority of the time what happens is someone's going to pop your card, or they're going to seal it with like Big Eye or something when the attack is simply too high to run over. Next up we have Cxyz Sky Palace Babylon. Now, this card is absolutely insane to get out without the Cxyz. It's 3 level 11 monsters, and it's got 3,800 attack and that 4,000 defense. So this card has the effect when this card destroys a monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the original attack of the destroyed monster in the graveyard. If this card has Sky Palace Gengareda as Xyz material, it gains this effect. Once per turn, if this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can detach 1 material from this card. It can make a second attack in a row. So that's pretty hefty. I mean, I guess if you perhaps use this card over here, since this card can't attack, you can still just Cxyz for this guy, and then this guy can attack, and technically he could potentially attack twice. So that's kind of like an OTK as hard as possible. I'm totally going to make a deck that revolves around that later on. But next up we have some of the butterflies over here. We have Photon Alexandra Queen. She actually looks pretty cool, but she requires 2 level 4 Butter Spy monsters. So you can detach 1 material from this card, return all monsters on the field to the hand, then inflict 300 damage to each player for each card returned to their hand. And it doesn't say accept this card, so that means you have to return her too. So I don't know how viable that is, but maybe you can burn for that last bit amount of damage that you need to burn for a game. Again, it just reminds me of a Gaga Cowboy. Those wins when you just burn for that little damage that you need it's always fun when you do it, but when your opponent does, it's like, oh no! Next up we have Night Papal Operative. So this one's effect is, well, it requires 3 level 4 monsters, but once per turn you detach 1 material from this card. This card gains 300 attack for each Xyz material attached to a monster on the field. That's an okay effect. Personally, I find it when it's 3 level 4 monsters, I automatically think if it's not even close to Shockmaster, it's not really going to be seeing play. Shockmaster is just one of those cards where you get it out first turn and you win. And I think Shockmaster is still the best rank 4 that requires 3 level 4s. Next up we have Uninformed of Void. I thought this card was going to be a plant the first time I looked at it. I'm like, what the heck is that? It's an aqua, but it looks like some, I don't know if it's a spaceship with eyes or what, but anyways, it is a 0/0, but it will be boosted up. It requires 3 level 4 monsters. Once per turn during your opponent's main phase, you can detach 1 material from this card. This card gains attack and defense equal to the total of face-up monsters your opponent controls. This is a quick effect. So, because it's one of those, kind of like one of those where it's like during either player's turn, those are basically the quick effect monsters. But that's a pretty good effect, but again, I still find Shockmaster to be better, because if you're going to call monster effects, your opponent's not going to be able to really get out anything that can really do anything. The only thing that's going to hurt is something like maybe like Dark Hole, and obviously this card would still lose to something like Dark Hole. But it is a light, so you can technically honest with it also. Next up we have Princess Cologne over here, and she is a rank 4 that has 500 attack but 2200 defense. When this card is Xyz Simon, you can target 1 box of friends in your graveyard to special summon that target. If you control another monster, your opponent cannot target this card with card effects or for attacks. If a face-up normal monster you control is destroyed by battle or by card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can attach 1 material from this card to special summon 1 normal monster from your deck or graveyard in face-up defense position. So this card will work with Bow Wow as well as Box of Friends. It's kind of like this little small little engine, because you get to bring back Box of Friends, and if they want to kill your Box of Friends, then you're just going to get out more monsters. So, I don't know, it might be a small little engine that you can tech in. Maybe eventually there might be a deck. But I think this card will be a popular card, simply because it's just a princess, and she's got hair like the girl Catherine from that game, if any of you guys play that game. Next up we have Baby Tarragon. This card is kind of awful. It basically lets level 1 monsters attack directly. There's nothing that really makes this card viable, but who knows? Maybe with the princess card and like the box, you can maybe make something. I don't know. Next we have Chakra. This card is awful, but it's one of those cards where we never got it printed, so they're like, okay, you guys can have it. This card is like probably a bad card to actually pull. Next up, we have Resurrection of Chakra. Now, I like this artwork right here because it's got that cleavage. Unfortunately, the way we got it printed, she's got some clothes over her. I understand they can't show like nipples, but come on, I don't think it's bad to show some cleavage, and it has some pretty good artwork. If this card, didn't have the thing covering her. I would totally make this into a token, but unfortunately there is no cleavage, so I'm kind of a sad panda. Next up, we have Puppet Ritual. So this card's pretty good for XYZs, but you can't conduct your battle phase. But anyways, if your opponent's life points are at least 2,000 higher than yours, you can target 2 level 8 gimmick puppet monsters in your graveyard. You can special summon those targets. You can only activate 1 Puppet Ritual per turn. You cannot conduct your battle phase the turn you activate this card. So that's pretty good. It doesn't have any restrictions other than you can't conduct your battle phase. You can still like activate the monster's effect. It doesn't like, you know, stop really anything. But yeah, I think this card, it's some potential if you want to play gimmick puppets. It's going to really allow you to get those XYZs that might be a little bit too hard to get out with just like 1 card. But yeah, obviously it has that downside that you can't conduct your battle phase. I don't know how like fair that is, because we have cards like, what is that Heraldry Reborn, where it's like you get a special summon 2, then you go for an XYZ, and then you can run 3 of those, and there's really no restrictions on that other than you have to XYZ immediately. Next up, we have Stoic Challenge. So this card actually opens up some doors for some OTKs. So anyways, you can only control 1 Stoic Challenge equipped to a face-up XYZ monster that has XYZ material. It gains 600 attack for each material attached to a monster you control, and any battle damage your opponent takes from battles involving it and their monster is doubled, but its effects cannot be activated. During your opponent's end phase, send this card to the graveyard. When it leaves the field, destroy the equipped monster. Now, I was reading some of the card tips, and I was like, you can equip it to Blade Armor Ninja. Now, it does have that effect where but its effects cannot be activated. Since you've already activated, let's say, Blade Armor Ninja's effect, you can technically really utilize this. Unfortunately, you cannot use it on something like Heroic Champion Excalibur, because you can only equip to a face-up XYZ material, XYZ monster that has XYZ material. So maybe if you get out a Excalibur and then maybe get another material on it just for shenanigans, you could technically pull off some super OTK that involves it. I'll probably end up trying to make one of these random decks that can pull that off. But Blade Armor Ninja is probably a really great option, technically, since Blade Armor can attack twice, plus it gets that 600 boost, and they take double battle damage from battles, it and their monster. So that's pretty good if you're making some Blade Armor Ninja. This card might be viable in maybe some Blade Armor Ninja Turbo deck. Next up, oh, there's Blade Armor Ninja. I just wanted to mention that. Oh, you can also use Gagagigo, the Risen, if you want to. This card's pretty good. It's unaffected by Fiendish Train, and they can't even affect Valor it. Next up, we have Overland Capture. So you can target 1 XYZ monster your opponent controls that has material, and 1 XYZ monster you control. You detach all materials from your opponent's XYZ monster and attach it to your card as XYZ material. Now, there is another card, I believe it's a quick play that just detaches 1, and I believe there is another card where it just detaches 1 and attaches it, but this detaches all, so I think this card is pretty awesome. So if you're playing against an Evil Storm deck and you're also playing Evil Storms, maybe you can make use of this card. I think it's kind of one of those like cards where you need to know what your opponent is playing. I wouldn't just main deck this card, although majority of the meta decks are already XYZ anyways. Next up, we have Insect Armor with Laser Cannon. I was like, this card looks ridiculous. What does it do? And it's one of those old cards where it's like, oh, you equip it to an insect only and it increases its attack by 700 points. Not even as good as Axe of Despair, but it looks awesome. I mean, look at that. It's got spikes on it. It looks like a football armor. Next up, we have Number Wall. So you can only activate this if you control a number monster. Number monsters on the field cannot be destroyed by card effects and cannot be destroyed by battle except with another number monster. When a number monster you control is destroyed, destroy this card. So obviously it has that downside, but they can still be targeted by card effects. They just can't be destroyed. So I mean, you can still like technically deprison them, or you can big eye them. There's just so many things that you can just do. So I don't really think this card is viable, but you know, maybe someone can make use of it and just like it, because it's kind of like one of those cards where it's like, protect the XYZs. Next up, we have Heraldry Record. When an effect of your opponent's XYZ monster is activated by detaching its own material, negate the activation if you do destroy it. Now, I really like this card, Black Horn of Heaven, so it kind of reminds me of, like, you know, just one of those cards where it just destroys the XYZ pretty much immediately as it goes off, because most of the time when someone goes for an XYZ, they're going to activate its effect. Now, obviously, Black Horn of Heaven, it's more versatile. You can hit stuff like Judgment Dragon, which is pretty good. I know Light Sworn isn't like a meta deck, but I mean, technically, any Synchros, you can hit that too. Whereas this card, it's only for XYZs. But technically, if they already have the monster on the field, this card might be a little bit better in one aspect, because, you know, after the monster's on the field, Black Horn of Heaven can't really do much. Whereas this card, you can still do some stuff. Next up, we have protection, and so you target one face-up attack position monster on the field, change it to face-up defense position. Any damage you take for the rest of the turn is halved, which is not a bad, secondary effect of, you take half of the battle damage. I personally find enemy controller to be a much better card in a lot of different ways, simply because it has that ability where, you have multiple effects. You can target one face-up monster, and you can change its battle position. You can move it to face-up attack position, or, move it to defense position. Or you can tribute that monster and then take one monster your opponent controls. Plus, it's a quick play, so I really find enemy controller to just be such a better card over the Butterfly protection. But that's just my thoughts on that card. Alright, so now that we've covered the entire set, let's go over what cards are the good cards. So the cards, if you pull, you should be excited about, because these are the cards that people more than likely are going to want from you. So first off, we have number 85, Crazy Box. So basically this card is going to be hot simply because it might see some play, because it is technically an Eradicator and deck devy target. So some decks that really utilize, the ability to go for quick rank 4s, they can actually, battle against spellbooks a little bit easier, because pretty much once a virus goes off, they are going to be very sad. Next up, we have Sky Palace Gengareda. So he's pretty good simply just because Gustav Max hasn't had its reprint, and some people might just want, that ability to make a rank 10 monster, and it has a pretty decent effect also. Next up, we have Princess Cologne, which is pretty good simply just because it's kind of got this little combo engine going, and I think it, like I said, it's just because it's one of those girl cards, kind of like the Dark Magician girl cards, where it's popular because it's got a girl and people find her attractive, although I believe she looks like she's at least 5 years old. Next up, Box of Friends, which it kind of goes along with her. Next up, we have Coach King Giant Trainer. He's pretty good. There is a lot of different variants that can actually run this. There is a variant of Elemental Dragons with Karakuri that you can really utilize this card, and you could actually destroy your opponent pretty fast with that. And lastly, we have number 74, Master of Blades. This is pretty much the hottest card in this entire set, so this is pretty much the best card in the set. But if you guys want to check out that video that I was talking about earlier, where it involves using agents and getting out basically a double Gustav Max, but now you can actually get out double Gengaredas. I just like calling it Gengareda just because it sounds better. Then I don't know, is it Gengareda? Gengareda? I don't know how it's actually pronounced, but Gengareda here is pretty good. I think it's a submarine. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Asian Eyes signing out.